IB Nation, what's going on? Happy Monday from everyone at Irish Breakdown. This is the Notre Dame Recruiting Hour, bringing you the recruiting news that you need to know every single Monday, and especially as we get into a very important week. I am Ryan Roberts, the Director of Recruiting here at irishbreakdown.com, joined by my guy, Sean Davis, who is here with me every single Monday to break down some of the hottest topics in recruiting. We know, Sean, it's Clemson week, buddy. So this is going to be a very informative show. If you're not signed up at the message board at bards.irishbreakdown.com, we just added about 40 players that will be in attendance to the visitor list. I even made it into a nice little post on the board. So if you're not signed up, you should go check it out now, because we're going to talk about a lot of guys today, but we're not going to hit on all of those players because we would otherwise be here for about 6 hours. And, some of us have work to get done, so we're not going to be on here for 6 hours. But go, again, the boards.irishbreakdown.com. You can check out that message board. If anybody's wondering why Brian needed to get us handsome guys on his team here at Irish Breakdown, it's for weeks just like this. Clemson game is going to be the biggest recruiting weekend of the year for Notre Dame. Incredible list. We're going to break that down. Sean, we're also going to talk about a certain 2023 athlete that had just announced that he has a decision date set for December 7th. That, of course, being Brandon Hillman, the athlete out of Churchland High School in the state of Virginia. We'll also talk about some high school commits in action this weekend, as we always do at irishbreakdown.com. Some really impressive performances from a lot of guys, both 2023 and 2024 commits alike, Sean, because we know the playoffs started in most states this weekend. So there was a lot of big-time moments in big-time games, which is what we define greatness as, right? Performing in the biggest moments. So big weekend though, Sean. Again, this is why Brian pays us the big bucks, right? We got to deliver some nice content this week, get everybody primed and ready, because Clemson is going to be a monumental week in recruiting this week.
This is the game we've been talking about. This is the weekend we've been talking about. November 5th, Clemson. We knew it. I think Notre Dame set it up to be the big recruiting weekend. I think them getting out early, signing the amount of kids, or not signing, getting the number of kids that they got committed early. I think at some point they were up to 21, if I'm not mistaken. And they lose a couple. They lose Dante Moore. They lose Keon Keeley, still solid. Then they lose Elijah Page.
Yep.
But they got out so early on their guys that were committed to the program that it caused them to say, you know what, we can let our commits and our 24 kids really kind of be the focus of our game day visits. And then we can just put all of our eggs in one basket, literally a month away or just over a month out from signing day, and make our late push. I don't think they thought they would be 5-3 going into this game. I thought they would be 6. They probably thought they'd be 6-2, 7-1. They probably expected to be undefeated, because I think they fully expected to beat Ohio State as a team. But how monumental this weekend was evident when we started to hear, before the season started, we started to hear kids tell us, I'll be at the Clemson game. I'll be at the Clemson game. And before people even ask, the list that you put up are those that have been confirmed. Am I correct?
Mm-hmm. Yep, you are correct. Yep.
There will be more kids added to the list. I can tell you that. There will be more kids confirmed over the week. You don't have to ask me about a certain kid from Chicago from the 24th class. I'm pretty sure that confirmation is going to come sometime this week. So look for it on the message board, which means you have to be part of the message board. Go to boards.irishbreakdown.com right now if you're not part of the message board.
And I've seen a couple people make, a lot of, posts on the board about, who's coming this week. If you are signed up at the message board already, if you go to the front page, there is just a Notre Dame visits list that is on there. And at the top of the list, I moved all the Clemson visits to the top to make it as easy as possible. So it'll be always the latest game will be the most recent thing on the list. So Clemson, like I said, it's going to be monumental, Sean. We'll get into it in a second. I mean, basically every recruit, both 2023 and 2024 alike, will be there. And then that's not even mentioning the really talented 2024 kids that are slated to be there, and a couple interesting 2023 kids as well, as Notre Dame, sitting at 23 commits right now, is nearing the end of this cycle. Obviously, with the first signing day happening in December, only a couple more decisions that Notre Dame's kind of waiting on, and that 2023 class will be solidified. So we'll get to that list, Sean. But like I said, I want to start with Brandon Hillman, who, if you didn't check it out yesterday, he announced on Twitter that on December 7th, which is actually his mother's birthday as well. I also posted an article on it if you want to go check out just kind of the timeline of Brandon Hillman's relationship with Notre Dame. You can go check it out there. That he is a player that, Sean, we have been talking about now for about a month, in as far as like seriously talking about him. Because at first, when he got offered, right, Jeremiah Love was not committed. There was still just some understanding of like how he fits into the class. Then we quickly find out, due to our sources, that Notre Dame doesn't see him necessarily at one position right now, right? Like, is he a running back? Who knows? Is he a wide receiver? Who knows? Could he play quarterback? Maybe. I wouldn't count it out. Is he a defensive player, where I personally like him a lot? Like, he's a rover to me on the next level. But, certainly we'll see, obviously, where he ends up, what position designation he has. But that's just kind of what I see from him. So Notre Dame wants this kid as an athlete. And it's been trending really well because he was on campus. Although they did not have the best showing against Stanford, they still had I thought was a monumental visit with him, and he really was impacted very well at that point. And I would have called Notre Dame the leader for Brandon Hillman leaving that visit. And now it's all about closing from here, Sean, because we're sitting here on October 31st, obviously on Halloween. Happy Halloween, I guess, to everyone out there, for all of you that celebrate with your kiddos. But it is a monumental one, man, because we only have about a month and a half or not even a month and a week until Brandon Hillman makes his commitment to whatever school it ends up being. And he's got a top 8 out there. That includes schools like Tennessee, Oklahoma, Miami. It's a nice list. So Notre Dame has some work to finish out here, Sean. But as we sit here today, I feel good about Notre Dame standing. But again, they have a month and a week, 5 weeks from now, to really kind of close this one out. It's really to put the stamp on this one, because Brandon Hillman likes Notre Dame. Notre Dame likes Brandon Hillman. It's all about closing it out now for this one.
I totally agree with you, Ryan. And in recruiting, you never know how the wind is going to blow when you're dealing with teenagers. They could wake up one day and their emotions have switched and something's happened in their personal life with their family, and all of a sudden they want to stay closer to home. Anything can happen. If I'm not mistaken, I believe he just visited Chapel Hill for the North Carolina Pitt game this last week. He has to be impressed, and then, you talk about closing. What is he being told? How are programs wanting to use him? How do they see him? Do they see him defensively? Do they see him as a quarterback? Do they see him as a wide receiver or another position on the offensive side of the ball? This is going to play a major key in his decision. As you said before, December 7th is going to be the big day. He mentioned that was his mom's birthday. A lot of people felt like, he was just kind of playing things out, and kind of stringing things out. And maybe they felt that way based upon the intel piece that you guys put together, talking about how great the visit went. But it's just a kid just pretty much giving himself time to make a decision, because I don't think a decision is really imminent right now. I think he's going through all of his choices. But I do believe if I had a top 3, Notre Dame is definitely in the top 3. And they're not 3. I'll leave it at that.
Yep. Nah, that's a well way to phrase it, Sean. And it's going to be a really interesting one, man, because, again, he's a kid that for the longest time was incredibly underrated. He's starting to pull in offers after offers. Again, Tennessee's offered, Miami, Oklahoma. A lot of teams are coming after Brandon Hillman now, just kind of accentuate what the talent he is. And kind of for a little bit of backstory, it wasn't long ago that, his only offer was, I think it was like something like Morehead State or something like that. Like, that was his only offer. And that was because at first, early on in his recruitment, Brandon was very adamant. I am a quarterback. That's the position I'm going to play. And he has opened that up to possibilities now, right? Like, he's not just a quarterback. He's okay with playing wherever a team sees him fit. So that's why you've seen a lot of teams now get into the fold quickly with him, because he's a dynamic athlete, physical athlete. And like I said, I mean, conceivably, Sean, he could play safety, rover, maybe will linebacker down the line. He could play wide receiver. He could play running back. He could play quarterback for some teams. That guy could play 6 or more positions on the college level, like literally can, man. So this kid's big for Notre Dame because we've talked about this. And I mean, I've been really adamant about this. I've had several articles about this. Notre Dame has done a pretty good job, I believe, in the 2023 class of finding athletic kids that can do multiple things. Like you think about Jeremiah Love, which everyone's excited about as a running back, but he could conceivably play wide receiver or defense if he wanted to, right? Like he could do that type of stuff. Micah Bell, punt, kick returner, could probably do some stuff on offense if he wanted to. Cornerback. Talk about Dylan Edwards with his ability to work in the slot, work as a gadget player, return kicks, return punts. Peyton Bowen plays on both sides of the ball, obviously for Denton Geyer. So this is the type of player they're looking for, Sean, is they're trying to find athletes. And that is the floor for Brandon Hillman, that he's a talented athlete. How good can he be? I mean, it really just depends on where he kind of fits, man, how his body continues to develop. I think the ceiling is the roof with a guy like a Brandon Hillman. So once again, this is a big one. It's a big one for Notre Dame. Again, I mean, they're looking at about 26 in the 2023 class. You're sitting at 23. Notre Dame still wants to get a quarterback in the class. They would like to get a 5th offensive lineman. They would like to get this athlete, Brandon Hillman. That is kind of what the realistic options are right now. Are they going to kick the tires with some defensive ends, edge players? I believe they are. But as we kind of put out in an intel piece on Irish Breakdown last week, I don't think it's a certainty that they end up with a Viper in the 2023 class. There is an opportunity that maybe transfer portal might be the other option for that situation, right? So big one. But Sean, I wanted to spend most of our time talking about this because it is, again, massive weekend heading up for Notre Dame. And again, that list is on irishbreakdown.com. It's on boards at irishbreakdown.com. I will have a visit primer later in the week that'll be available to everyone, but I want to give everybody a part of the Irish Breakdown community a heads up about who are the players that you should be able to keep a close eye on. Already keep a close eye on moving forward. And I see that we have a little bit of a troll in the chat, Sean. So I am just going to get him out of here for a little bit of a timeout. See you, sir. So, Sean, it's going to be a lot of fun because I want to reiterate this again. I've already said it a couple of times, but I saw someone put it in the chat again. The list is expected to grow throughout the week. We're sitting at like 40 guys that are going to be on their campus. I expect that to increase by several. I mean, you mentioned Justin Scott, who's not on the list right now, out of, the big defensive tackle out near you and out of the state of Illinois, who's a very talented player of Notre Dame. We expect him to be on campus, but it has not been verified yet. So we expect that list to continue to expand. But let's go through a few of the headliners, Sean. This will be interesting, right? Basically, every recruit, every commit, I should say, in the 2023 and 2024 class will be on campus. The only one that we have not gotten verification on that we do not believe that will be on campus is Peter Jones. But the ones that I want to start out with, and I think this is massive, absolutely massive visit, is the Bowen brothers will be on campus this weekend, Sean. Denton Geyer, 2023 safety, Peyton Bowen, 5-star recruit in the 2023 class, and Eli Bowen, his younger brother, in the 2024 class, a cornerback. So before I start the conversation, Sean, this is where we are with these two players, right? Peyton Bowen has now been committed to Notre Dame since January. Peyton Bowen there's been a lot of chatter. There's been a lot of sites, putting information out there that we have deemed to be not truthful information, if we're being completely honest, right? Peyton's, has been taking some unofficial visits with his brother, a part of kind of that process. I do think there's been a lot of misinformed people putting information out there that just honestly isn't very true. But the one thing I'll say is that for Peyton Bowen, this is going to be a massive visit because, one, some of the schools that have been trying to get him to flip, Oklahoma and Texas A&M specifically, have had their struggles this year, just like Notre Dame has had struggles at time this year. So on-field production, if Notre Dame's able to have a nice outcome or just a nice showing against Clemson, I think that'll go a long way to solidify things because I know it's been a rumor for months and months and months that Peyton Bowen's going to decommit, Sean, but we're sitting here now at the end of October and it still hasn't happened yet. So only a couple months left to make that reality happen if you're the University of Oklahoma or you're Texas A&M, right? Yeah. So get a nice on-field opportunity to see. I think it's going to be big for Peyton, continuing to build that relationship that we know, based on everything that we have heard and that we've spoken to near Peyton Bowen. He has a great relationship with the other commits in the class.
Yeah.
He's active in that department. He has a great relationship with the coaches on the coaching staff. So this is another opportunity to continue to solidify that relationship. So that's big. And the other one is Eli Bowen, who I want people to understand something. I'm going to reiterate this because we've said this several times. I just want to put this out in the universe again because I feel like people don't appreciate this enough. Notre Dame is pushing for Eli Bowen to be a part of the 2024 class. And it has zero, listen to me, it has zero to do with Peyton Bowen. Notre Dame loves Eli Bowen. They think he has tremendous skills as a man-to-man corner, has great instincts as a zone player, can work inside and out at nickel and outside cornerback in a pinch. Notre Dame wants him to be a part of the class, and it has zero to do with Peyton Bowen. They love Eli as a football player. So for different reasons, Sean, getting the Bowens on campus is huge for Notre Dame, a huge opportunity to, I think, really solidify one and continue to trend in a good direction with the other.
Look, like you said, I want to kind of just add on to what you've already established with the brothers coming in for this Clemson game. Notre Dame's in great shape with Peyton. I talked to some of the 23 commits. They're super excited to see their boy. Super excited to see their boy this weekend. You know, Drake Bowen actually has, if I'm not mistaken, they play Bremen in the playoffs. And I think Bremen is like maybe a 20-minute trip from South Bend. It's not that far. So he might be coming in Friday night. And I think he let it slip to me that the Bowens will be there Friday night in South Bend. So he'll be trying to get in to get up with his boy. And if not, he said he'll definitely be up there early Saturday morning. So the excitement amongst the 23 class to be around other guys and other commits and other targets in the 23 and 24 class is just bubbling right now. It's just they can't wait, you know, and most of them have to focus on playoff football, but they can't wait to get to South Bend this weekend. And really, the game is the backdrop. That's the crazy thing about it. Like, this is Clemson, Notre Dame, but they're so amped just to be around each other. And the brotherhood they have and the feeling they have in the 23 class is that we are the class that's going to make the difference. We are that class, and they're super excited about coming in and being a part of that. And then, look, Eli just came back from a trip with Oregon, man. That's a really good program.
Sure
That's
is.
a really big-time program.
And Eli likes Oregon, to your point, Sean. He does. He likes Oregon. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And some really, really – I saw a lot of people, you know, trying to make a big deal out of the fact that Peyton, you know, I guess wore some stuff from his Oregon trip in his game last weekend. They tried to make it a big deal. It's like,
look, Sean, can I say this? So for people that don't know my background, I work with a lot of – so I'm in the NFL draft sphere. And I work with a lot of agents, okay? And I do some evaluations, and I help them with their recruitment, all that type of stuff, right? I get a lot of free stuff, all right? I get a lot of free stuff as a part of my payment. I wear – agent stuff, school stuff, player stuff. It has nothing to do with my allegiance. It's free. It's free clothes, man. That's what it is. It's free swag. Like, what do you want me to say about it, man? It's nice. Like, I think people hyper focus on that because Peyton wore some Oklahoma gloves one game. He wore an Oregon like headband or a do-rag or whatever it was this past week. Can we chill on the free clothes stuff, man? Like, I would wear some free clothes. If Oregon wants to send me a free shirt, I'll wear an Oregon shirt. Like, it's just free stuff, man.
And I think, if I'm not mistaken, this is really the first season that Eli has totally given most of his attention to the defensive side of the ball, because he was a pretty good wide receiver in his sophomore year down there at Dayton God. He made a lot of big plays for that team. So, you know, moving forward, you just have to sit here and wait. We got a month. It's been 3 or 4 months that we've been hearing he's decommitting. Now it's a month out. I'm sure we're going to hear it up to like a week out, 2 days out. There's still a chance that he's going to flip. Notre Dame, they've been confident, and we can only echo the confidence they have with where they sit with Peyton Bowen and with Eli Bowen.
Yeah. And that's the thing with Peyton. Sean, is that we've heard both from Peyton's side and from Notre Dame's side that it's, they're comfortable with where they are, right? And they feel confident where they are. Am I going to predict that Peyton is definitely in the class? I'm not going to do that because, I would have told you 2 months before Keon Keeley decommitted that there was no world that Deion was going to decommit from Notre Dame, right? So anything could happen, to your point, right? Especially in this era, like anything could happen. All I'm saying is if Peyton does stick with the team, which I feel good about at this point, if it does happen, me and Brian will have a lot of things to say about this recruitment because there's been a lot of bad information put out there. We'll just leave it at that for now. If it does happen, though, you'll be hearing from us, right? You will be hearing from us. And Archer just posed a question, Sean, that asked, but Ryan, would you wear a Michigan or USC shirt? Hashtag burn it. Archer, I never would wear a Michigan or a USC shirt. I'm not. No. Nope. I would not. I would not. But another team that I don't care about that isn't a rival to Notre Dame, I would wear it. I would. So
yeah. I'm gonna keep it up. I'm gonna keep it funky today, okay?
Okay.
USC has some really good swag and apparel, bro.
Well, and your daughter goes there, right? Doesn't she go to USC? So that's acceptable, right? Like that's acceptable.
Every time I go, Daddy, can we go to the bookstore? Of course. She wants some new swag. And I'm gonna be honest, man. They got some pretty good looking stuff. The colors pop. I'm like, man, if I wasn't a Notre Dame fan, but my fandom won't allow me to do it. I won't even wear my daughter goes to USC or I'm a USC dad. No. Can't do it.
That's funny, man. Do it. That's so funny. And I know Ladarius is in the chat. Ladarius, welcome back to the chat. And he's an Alabama fan, Sean, a resident Alabama supporter, and they get to play LSU this weekend. So Ladarius, for the first time, maybe in my lifetime, I'm an Alabama fan this week, buddy. I'm an Alabama fan. So roll Tide. We'll see. All right, so that's the kind of what we're sitting with the Bowen, Sean. Another interesting player that's going to be on campus this week.
Oh, just a moment. First of all,
yes,
I did not confess to wearing USC swag.
Yeah, you got to get rid of that. Yeah,
this is how rumors get started, Ryan. You have to grab it when it pops up and just. I'm sorry for interrupting. I did not.
No, you're fine.
I said I don't wear and have never worn USC swag.
Man. You know what I'm gonna do now? I'm gonna get a picture of you. I'm gonna Photoshop some USC gear on you, man. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna put it on Twitter.
I would actually retweet that. That's funny. I would retweet that.
Would you retweet it if it was Michigan stuff or just USC stuff?
No, we would have to have a conversation if it was Michigan stuff.
Okay.
Like, all right, come on, man.
That's fair. That's fair.
Bro.
I do have some that.
So my daughter could have fun with it. That's why I would retweet it and have fun with it.
I have some Adobe work, man, that I can get that done for you, Sean. I can get that done for you.
Photoshop.
Well, a little Photoshop action, man. I'll have to make that work. But we have another fun one in attendance, Sean, that I wanted to talk about. Okay, 2023, and then I'll hit on a couple of the 2024 guys after we're done this conversation. So Khalil Barnes, who is a defensive back, wide receiver, he was offered just recently last month, and he is a young man who people asked originally, is Khalil Barnes, they call him KB, is Khalil Barnes a guy that Notre Dame is pushing for? The answer is this, okay, and we've talked about this. Notre Dame wants a fifth wide receiver in the class. That has been, Tayshaun Lyons has been the target for Notre Dame at wide receiver, okay, as of now. And so you have Tayshaun Lyons as the fifth receiver, and then they want Brandon Hillman, who we've talked about a ton. Like, that's the last two athletes in the class, right? Now, what Khalil Barnes is Khalil Barnes is a player that Notre Dame likes and that Clemson's making a big push for. Oklahoma has offered. Good football player. He's a good football player out of the state of Georgia. So the deal with this is that I hate calling guys insurance, Sean, but it's a guy that Notre Dame likes, but Notre Dame doesn't have a lot of spots left. So if a Brandon Hillman or let's say a Tayshaun Lyons, or they don't get a wide receiver in the class that they want at this point, then I believe that they would make a push for KB Barnes. And he is a talented football player. He truly is. I like his film a lot, Khalil Barnes. He's another player similarly to Brandon Hillman that has kind of been a little bit of a late riser in this class and started to get some nice offers despite still ranking as a 3-star player. He's a much talented player than what the ranking says. Go look at the offer list. Khalil Barnes can play. So he'll be on campus this weekend, I should say, for the Clemson game. And this is monumental because he's never been on campus before. It's first time in South Bend. First one. So as we sit here at the moment, I think this visit will tell us a lot about what the realistic fit is for Notre Dame. Because again, I think Notre Dame likes Barnes. I think Barnes likes Notre Dame along with other schools like Clemson. But I don't know if there's a spot in this class for Barnes as we currently sit if Notre Dame wanted to make a push. That's the kind of the crux to this guy right now. But Khalil has told me directly this morning. I have an update or a visit preview that's going to come out today. He told me, Sean, that the guy that he hears from most every single week is Marcus Freeman. Like he said, he hears from Mike Mickens. He hears from Chancey Stuckey because he's getting recruited at 2 different positions. But Marcus Freeman reaches out to this young man exclusively. I just saw Darius put out, and Darius, he's from Georgia. He's a Georgia kid, Khalil Barnes. So there is interest here. There is. And we know, Sean, that as soon as a player gets on campus, things get real quick, right? Like that's when it happens. There's interest for a lot of players going into that type of a visit, but there's just something about South Bend, man. When you get on campus, you're like, this is a little something different. So big opportunity for Notre Dame to get this young man on campus, his first time on campus in South Bend.
I'm going to say something, and hopefully people understand it. Like, you've been there. I've been there. I'm sure a lot of the fans, IB Nation, have been to South Bend. South Bend is a or dude type of visit. It just is what it is. It's like either kids are okay, or they're like, man, I love it here, right? I can see myself here. That's what Tayshawn Lyons tweeted. After his visit, I can really see myself here. And a lot of kids have that feeling when they come to Notre Dame. I myself talked about the first time that I was able to walk the campus as an adult and just feeling like Newt Rodney was walking to my right and the Gipper was walking to my left. It's an aura, it's a feeling. And some kids pick up on it and some kids don't. And that's recruiting. And so it goes back to what you talk about with Khalil Barnes. Yeah, Clemson is considered a lean with him. And, the situation with Tayshawn Lyons going down to the wire. And people kind of feel like, well, Notre Dame might be falling back. It's another young man taking his time. Yep. He has the right to take his time. Doesn't necessarily mean that Notre Dame is failing or falling back. Still doesn't change the fact that he loves Notre Dame. He loves the campus. And Khalil Barnes, his first time, I can guarantee you, coming into this atmosphere, it's going to be tough not to like Notre Dame this weekend. It's going to be really tough. And once that happens, you're probably going to see what is considered a lean in one direction, kind of even out, and then kind of become a battle down the stretch. And it's wonderful to hear. I talk to Marcus Freeman more than anybody. That's wonderful to hear because that's something that we're not used to as a fan base. The head coach being the main recruiter on everybody, because that's Tayshawn Lyons, that's Khalil Barnes, that's anybody in the group 23, 24 to keep them in the 23 class or the 24 class. Marcus Freeman is that dude. Marcus Freeman is the one talking to these guys. So that's wonderful to hear. And I fully expect, my expectation is that Khalil Barnes is going to have a fabulous game day visit.
I believe so too. And it's really important too, the Marcus Freeman layer too, Sean, with a couple of these guys that Notre Dame's getting in a little bit late, the Brandon Hillmans of the world, the Khalil Barneses of the world, the Tayshawn Lyons of the world, anybody else that's kind of miscellaneous out there, is that they have some ground to make up, right, for a couple of these guys, and I think in the most part, they have done that. And I saw someone ask, I think it was Brandon Plesner asked or stated, and I just want to reiterate it as well, because again, I did talk to Khalil this morning, was that Khalil Barnes told me that he is going to commit sometime in December, most likely on National Signing Day, but could come beforehand. So, Brandon, you are correct. He is going to be a December commit. as is Brandon Hillman. That's when he is said to make his commitment as well. So to whatever school ends up getting him. So sorry, I didn't mean to click on that one. And someone also said this, Sean. I just want to put this out in the universe because we talked about this before, but I just want to kind of talk this one out real quick, fellas, because I've seen like 4 people ask this, and I get it because we reported in the past that it was going to happen like months ago. Samuel Mpemba is not coming to Notre Dame. Not this weekend. Not ever. That's just not going to happen, man. Originally, Notre Dame was in a pretty good spot. And then, I mean, we're going to be honest about this, right? Because that's what we're doing. And it's been general knowledge for a couple months now. Mm-hmm. There is an NIL opportunity that is wanted by Samuel Mpemba, part of his recruitment, that Notre Dame is not going to be able to do that for, right? So that's not going to happen. Samuel Mpemba will not be on campus this weekend unless something radically changes in the next couple days, and he is not being pushed for at this point because the fit doesn't match at this point. So Samuel Mpemba will not be.
And because of that, that seems to be a common thread with young men coming from that same school. So I'm not sure if Notre Dame is going to I'm sure they're going to still recruit kids, but it's going to be really tough for Notre Dame to get kids from a certain high school program because all of them are pretty much programmed to want NIL heavily at this point.
Yep. There's that might be a good topic of conversation, Sean. One day maybe we'll do a podcast on some schools that will be tough for Notre Dame to get into, but maybe it can. Yeah, we're talking about IMG Academy. I know someone put this down there, but there is a brand recognition from a high school level. There's a kind of a weird aura around those players there. So, but we'll talk about that another day. I think that'll be a good conversation piece. So that's Khalil Barnes out of the state of Georgia, 2023 target athlete. Again, could play wide receiver on the next level, could play defensive back. Yeah. So we don't know if Notre Dame's going to have a spot for him, but Notre Dame is kicking the tires there, and they are keeping a very good conversation and building a relationship with him. So that's where we are with Khalil Barnes. Last 2023 kid that I want to talk about, Sean. This is a really, really interesting one. One that we talked about on the board. Brian did an update on quarterback recruiting last week, I believe. So Roch Chalowski, who is a quarterback out of Hamilton High School in the state of Arizona. So this is the deal here, okay? He is currently committed to the University to UCLA, University of California, Los Angeles, to play baseball, Sean. He is one of the best baseball players in high school in America. And the deal here is that this weekend, he is coming to Notre Dame as a baseball recruits, as a baseball visits this weekend. But this is what I'm told. This is what we have been told. Roch Chalowski is a player who is expected to potentially be a first-round pick in the Major League Draft this year. Pretty much consensus for people that rank high school prospects as a top 20 player nationally in high school. So he has a chance to go very early in the draft. Depending on how things work out, Notre Dame is in the mix here because Notre Dame baseball program obviously really likes Roch, right? And Roch likes him back, I'm told. And so we'll see if this is a fit that makes sense. If it does happen, there is a reality where Notre Dame football also likes Roch Chalowski, and we'll leave it at that for now. And I just want to put this out there. If everything does work out and he ends up playing baseball and football at Notre Dame, this is not the answer for the 2023 recruiting class, right? This is at quarterback. Notre Dame is still working on other quarterbacks in this class that would be scholarship quarterbacks for University of Notre Dame. This is not the answer. But it is interesting, Sean, because if you watch his film, Roch is a very raw football player, very raw. But my guy can play a little bit, man. He's got a talented arm. He's a he has a cannon for an arm. He really does. Raw football player, because you can tell he's a baseball player. He plays the quarterback position like a baseball player, but there's some tools to work with there. So if there is a reality where Notre Dame can get him for baseball and he also plays football and they could just see what they have there and develop him as a part of a potential two-man class for 2023, it's interesting, man. So I'm just saying keep an eye on it. Again, this isn't going to be this isn't the answer for Notre Dame at the quarterback position. I just want to reiterate that. Notre Dame is working on a couple quarterbacks that we've mentioned, Avery Johnson alike. We mentioned someone else on the message board. I guess I could say it now since we already put it on the message board last week. But they're also they are also recruiting Aiden Childs, who is committed to the committed to Oregon State, who is a player that they like as well. So Notre Dame's doing their due diligence on the quarterback recruiting, but Chalowski is a player that Notre Dame is doing their development on, or is doing their homework on, and if the fit makes sense for a baseball and football structure, is a player that they like. So we'll leave it at that for now. It's interesting, though. It's interesting.
You know, I love baseball, so I tapped into his baseball film, too. This kid has a cannon from shortstop. I was like, oh,
yes, he does. Yes, he does, man.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's just, this is about Ryan. It's not so much about just strictly going out and getting top elite talent when you develop your room. And let's look at Dylan McCullough and the room that he walked into and the diversity in the room and what he has in the freshman class that he's developing with Jabron and with Jadarian and what he's recruited at the running back position and the diversity they have. It's the same thing that you want in your quarterback room, right? You want a guy. If you have 4 guys in your quarterback room, you want that guy. That's the veteran. Then you have a young stud that's coming. Then you have a guy that's a balance in that room. That can almost be a connector in that room to kind of like soften the blow of the competitive spirit and kind of bind guys together. Somebody that everybody in the room really loves. And then you might have a guy you take a chance on that's really raw, but that's your 4th guy in the room, right? And that's the type of quarterback room that a lot of quarterback coaches would like to have. And so Roch would fit very much in that at Notre Dame. If he came in, he would be a kid. He wants to play baseball. He wants to play football. He's raw. And you develop him. And it's about time he gets to in the middle of his sophomore year. Hey, next thing you know, he's making plays in practice. And you're like, oh, we might have something here. Next thing you know, quarterback battle. He's in the midst of it, spring, junior year. And you might have a story. So
I mean, and that's the best case scenario, right, Sean? But I mean, the baseline is that you could potentially get another talented kid in the quarterback room for nothing. I mean, because he would be on baseball scholarship, right? Like he'd be a baseball player that also just wants to play football. So it's really a high risk. I don't even want to say high risk. It's a no risk situation for Notre Dame if they were able to get a guy like Chalowski. Like it just makes a lot of sense, right? So another player to keep an eye on. Well, I'm sure we will definitely have updates on this. And again, if you want to sign up at boards.irishbreakdown.com, we'll have a lot of recruiting intel during this weekend because there is going to be a lot of stuff to talk about. I mean, we mentioned it. Basically, every recruit that is committed in 2023 and 2024 classes are scheduled to be on campus, except for a couple. A lot of talented players. Those are the couple of 2023 kids I want to keep an eye on. Forgot to mention at the end of the show, we'll be doing a mailbag as always. So if at any point in this conversation you want to start throwing in questions, I already have a few starred, but if you just want to keep throwing those in, they can be recruiting centric. You can ask us food questions because they're always fun. You can also ask us general football questions, whatever you want. It's kind of a free-for-all mailbag. So make sure you pop those in. Sean, hitting on a couple interesting 2024 kids and there's even a 2026 kid that's going to be on campus that I want to do a quick note on real quick, right? But we have of uncommitted players in the 2024 class, Sean, that Notre Dame has interest in. I have a update that is going to be coming out probably today, if not probably tomorrow morning, on TJ Lindsey, who is a defensive end out of the state of Arkansas, who is an extremely talented 6'5", 270-pound defensive lineman that could play on the edge. Also, Notre Dame's talking to him about potentially maybe playing 3-tech down the line if he does end up opting for Notre Dame. Really talented kid that is really starting to collect some impressive offers. Another player that was a little underrated early on. He's starting to get those offer lists that you're kind of like, oh, well, I really don't care what the rankings say because the offer list kind of speaks for itself. So he's a player that's going to be on campus. Garrett Stover is going to be on campus this weekend, who is the cousin of Cade Stover, the tight end out of Ohio State, a player that Notre Dame is projecting to play Rover if he does end up in South Bend. Really talented football player, Sean. I mean, he reminds me a lot of Pete Werner when Pete Werner was coming out of high school there in the state of Indiana, or state of Ohio, excuse me. Really talented football player who he went to Indiana. My bad. Garrett Stover is from the state of Ohio.
Yeah.
So they're very similar football players, both about 6'2", 200 plus pounds. He plays like he plays like the mid-hole safety, strong safety type, comes down in the box, plays in space a ton, but he's got some physicality to him. So Garrett Stover will be on campus. Eli Bowen will be on campus, who we talked about. Aeneas Williams, the running back out of Hannibal in the state of Missouri, will be on campus, the running back, who, Sean, is already the Missouri all-time leading rusher, the state, and he's only a junior, which is just doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make any logical sense. And we've talked, Sean, I think it's a great talking point. We've talked about how important it is for Notre Dame to get in St. Louis, but I would even further that out. It's important for Notre Dame to continue to recruit the state of Missouri over the 2023 and 2024 class. Christian Gray, Jeremiah Love, talking about next year going after guys like Ryan Wingo, Jeremiah McClellan. We can't forget about Aeneas Williams in this conversation, man, because he's a really talented running back in his own right.
Man, you can talk about levels and the level he plays at. I don't care. He's a football player. He's a football player and he's a playmaker. Simple as that. And I think that's the knock that a lot of people have tried to attach to him in his recruitment and his rankings. He can play football. That's all you need to know. And everything, Ryan, you just pointed out about him, his records, his accomplishments, they go without saying. But most of all, very solid young man. Family comes from NFL bloodlines. He knows the game, knows how to play the game. That's the most important thing. And when you watch film, I'm the type of guy that loves good feet at running back. Like, you can have great size, you can have speed, but I love good feet. Make somebody miss. This kid has a lot of make you miss when you watch his film.
Yeah, he reminds me. Aeneas Williams reminds me. I don't know if it's the Missouri thing, Sean, and the body type thing, but like, don't you get some Kyron Williams vibes, man? Like, that's just kind of what he looks like, right? Like, he's got better speed than Kyron did, in my opinion, but he's just got like this subtle shiftiness and power that you would not expect for a player his size, right? Like, he's just one of those guys that it looks like he takes offense to guys trying to tackle him. Like, that's what it looks like to me, man. He's like, are you serious? You're trying to tackle me? Are you kidding me? Get out of here. You're not going to tackle me. Are you stupid? Like, that's how Aeneas Williams runs, man, which is just so much fun to watch. It's so much fun to watch.
He's one of those type of kids, when you watch him play, there's certain kids when you watch film, you're like, okay. And then there are certain kids that bring the kid out of you when you watch them play, because you see the enjoyment, you see the fun, and they're like, man, I wish I could go play another down. I wish I could have another Friday night, because it reminds you of that time when you were a kid. So, like I said, he's a Notre Dame. He's a kid that I could definitely see at Notre Dame, because I don't like the word kid. He's a kid that I could see at Notre Dame.
Yeah, I could see it as well. I want to answer this one real quick from Will ND, who said, is he related to Braden? I think that's referring to, I said TJ Lindsey. So Will note, so Braden Lindsey is who plays for Notre Dame now. This is TJ Lindsey, spelled like the woman name, right? Lindsay. Like, that's how his name is spelled. So no relation. They're just, he's just a very talented player, obviously, though, who TJ Lindsey's the guy that people should keep eyes on. So good question, though. Good question. Sorry for my pronunciation miscue there. Braden Lee, Sean, talented cornerback out of the state of Maryland, who's a guy that, if you checked out my cornerback article from last week as far as what the board looks like, is a guy that Notre Dame likes a ton. Long, kind of reminds me a little bit of Cam Hart with how he plays. Like, he is long, physical, but he can run a little bit too, which is eye-popping. So Braden Lee's a talented kid. Carson Hobbs, who is committed to the University of South Carolina, who we've talked about. He got an offer from Notre Dame a few weeks ago, Sean, and I believe that Notre Dame has a chance to maybe make him rethink that commitment. Like, I think that's how much he likes Notre Dame. So we'll see what happens there. Kaj Sanders is a young man out of Bergen Catholic here in New Jersey, who Bergen Catholic is obviously Jaden Bellamy, Steve Angeli last year. That's Bergen Catholic. And he is a player that has played running back for Bergen. He's played corner, has played safety. He's played all over the place. Notre Dame, I believe, sees him as a safety at the next level, but he's a player that Notre Dame has been keeping in constant contact with and a player that they like for sure. And then there's 3 players, Sean. Had to mention this real quick, man. Then we'll get on some of the high school performances of the week. 3 players that will be on campus, not in the 2023 or 2024 class, Sean. So there's somebody in the chat that always asks me to talk about 2025 kids. Well, here you go. We got 2 2025 kids and a 2026 player that will be on campus here, Sean. So we have Jerome Bettis Jr. will be on campus, wide receiver in the 2025 class, Sean. So Jerome Bettis Jr. is ready to make the trip to South Bend. Gonna guess, and I don't know this for certain, but I'm gonna guess this is probably not his first time on campus. Just gonna guess that way. I don't know. Yeah.
Knowing Jerome, he's probably baptized.
Yeah, probably. No, you're probably right. What? Yeah, I don't want to speculate on that, but like you're probably right. You probably are. So he's one of the 2025 kids, which is just a fun, cool story, right? I haven't seen his film. I don't know if he's a serious player. I don't know if it's a serious target. I don't know. All I know is it's pretty cool to have a legend son on campus, which also Bryce Young, the defensive end 2024 kid, who's Bryant Young's son, will also be back on campus. Forgot to mention him. Mm-hmm. Dallas Golden, Sean, 2025 safety. He's out of Berkeley Prep in Florida, which if you know Berkeley Prep, that's where Keon Keeley goes to high school. Mm-hmm. Dallas Golden, Sean, is a dude. He's a sophomore safety. He can play wide receiver, but he's being recruited as a safety by Notre Dame, already holds an offer. And he's good, man. Like he has a chance to be an absolute dude in the 2025 class nationally. So Dallas Golden will be on campus. And the last one, a cool one, Sean, only 2026 kid that will be on campus, which means that he's a high school freshman right now. Dia Bell, who is the son, I know you're going to love this one, of Raja Bell, former NBA player. Dia Bell is going to be on campus, which is pretty neat, man. It's pretty cool. Yeah, Zach Martin in the chat. I was talking 2025, sir. It was happening, man. It was happening. It's Zach that always says something about 2025. Yeah.
Love too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, get 2025 some love, man. Hey, you want to talk Bryce Underwood? I'm here for you all day, man.
All day.
Let's get
about him right now, like all day.
Sean, I need to get through the 2023 class, man, and then I will dive fully into 2024 and 2025. I'm good with that, man. I'm good with that, right? But Dia Bell, son of Raja Bell, if you're an NBA fan, it will be on campus again this weekend for Notre Dame. Don't know if it's first trip. Don't know. Just was told this one, and we got it verified. So pretty awesome list, though, Sean. I mean, we have obviously a lot of very important players for Notre Dame, both on the 2023 and 2024 class, a couple interesting 2025 kids, even got a 2026 quarterback to get your thirst quenched out there for all the recruiting lovers. So it's good. Again, just kind of wrap this conversation up because we're going to move on to some of the key high school performances of the week, Sean. I just want to reiterate this again. Notre Dame has a massive opportunity this weekend. Gigantic. We have now seen them make some nice strides in recruiting as far as the game day visits. And, Notre Dame, I think, has made a lot of moves with a lot of different players on game day visits. But this one, folks, I mean, we have talked about this a ton, right? Notre Dame has not played well at home so far this year. Notre Dame has a chance if they're able to play a really good game against Clemson and beat Clemson, let's say. They have a chance to really, I think, turn some heads in this visit weekend. So I think it's solidifying things with the recruits that you have on campus, the commits that you have on campus. I think that it's also impressing some of the 2024 kids that you have on campus. And you have a couple 2023 kids on campus that are not committed that I think Notre Dame is extremely interested in, at least kicking the tires with, giving a serious look to. And so this is about the present of Notre Dame football, the ability to beat a team like Clemson, but it's also about the future of the program, which is all what recruiting is. And I think that this one is big, Sean. Like, if Notre Dame has a big weekend this weekend, this is the type of momentum that Notre Dame needs, one, to solidify the 2023 class, two, to really jumpstart the interest and the confidence in the program for the 2024, 2025, and moving forward. A lot of opportunities in front of this staff and this team this Saturday, and I'm looking forward to seeing just how they rise to the occasion, because there's going to be a lot of eyes and a lot of attention, and Notre Dame has a chance to upend and beat one of the premier programs in college football. So massive opportunity for Notre Dame this weekend.
It is a wonderful opportunity, and sometimes when you face a team or anyone individually in another sport, it's all about when you face them, right? You could catch the wrong team during March Madness and you beat them early in the season and they're a totally different team when you face them in the tournament. Notre Dame I cannot stress how much Notre Dame, as much as they tried to downplay it, everything in the all season was built towards Ohio State. They invested a lot in preparation for that Ohio State game. They went into that game feeling like they were going to beat Ohio State, and that was genuine. That wasn't fake. That was genuine throughout the coaching staff, the program, the coaching staff, and the locker room. It was very genuine. And I think emotionally there was kind of a letdown and somewhat of a fracture in certain areas after that loss, because they felt like they should have gotten the win, and they didn't recover and play well enough against Marshall. They were able to go ahead and get the win against Cal, and they were still trying to build and get to a point to set the foundation for what this program is going to look like. And unfortunately, they end up falling to Stanford at home. So it goes back to what you say. It's perfect time. This is the perfect time to play your best home game of the year. It's like you haven't done it yet. So why not come off the impressive win and play your best home game of the year at the biggest moment, recruiting-wise, and to set the tone for the rest of the season. Monumental opportunity facing Marcus Freeman and this team. And like you said, the opportunity is right there in front of them. And we're talking about timing. It's not like they're facing Clemson from 3-4 weeks ago. The Clemson team at Wake Forest, where their quarterback was throwing for almost 400 yards and going blow for blow on the road with Hartman at Wake Forest, that team, you're like, oh, man, I don't know. But the quarterback situation that they have coming in right now, matching that up with what we're doing offensively, it's a question of, is it the battle of the quarterbacks, or is it going to be about which defense can get the big turnover or can cause the big moment in the game? It's going to be fun to watch, right?
Yep.
The one thing I will say, because, most people say this can go either way. It could be low scoring or it could turn into a shootout. I don't see a shootout this week. Like, I can sit back like Dr. Strange and go through all the possibilities, and I don't see one possibility of a shootout unless there's a bunch of turnovers and a lot of special teams big plays. I just don't see it.
Well, I mean, because Notre Dame has, they've had some plays that you want back during games, right? But for the most part, they played good defense. Like, they hold teams to, the same amount of points every single week. And like you said, Clemson's quarterback position is very up and down right now. You don't know what you're going to get, obviously, after the game that DJ Uiagalelei just had. And Notre Dame has been very sporadic offensively, and they're facing a really good front seven. So what's going to give there? We'll dig into the game and the matchup this week and all that. Yeah, we'll fix that out. But, just from a recruiting perspective, big opportunity, like we said. So that's going to end it for this section, Sean, as far as the commits that are going to be on campus. The players are going to be on campus. Let's talk some high school performances from this past week, because this is one of my favorite things. I remember when me and Brian first sat down and, to discuss what these shows are going to look like during the season. This is one thing that I wanted to do every single week because I think that I don't think we do this enough where we just kind of sit back and we appreciate the talent for what it is. That's why in the game day thread last week, this past weekend against Syracuse, after Michael Mayer made that crazy catch down the field, I mean, Sean, I just posted in there. I was like, I think we all need to take a step back and truly appreciate how good Michael Mayer is. Because I don't think people do that enough, man. Like, people know that he's, if not the best tight end in college football, he's number 2, like easy money, right? But regardless, I don't think people quite understand that you're watching a legend play right now. Like, he's going to break just about every tight end record. He's going to leave here as a first-round pick. Michael Mayer is one of those guys that you're going to be talking about for the next 50 years. Like, he's one of those dudes. Like, that's who he is, right? So appreciation is why we do this section of the podcast each week. So I have an article that I believe is live on the site. If it's not, it will be soon. Week 10 recap this past weekend for the top performances of commits at the University of Notre Dame in their high school football games. Like I said, Sean, this was a very important week for a lot of high school kids because most states started their playoffs this weekend. Like, there's still some that are still, got a little down the line. Like, I talked to TJ Lindsay. They don't start their playoffs for like 2 or 3 years. There's other states that haven't started yet. Like, the state of Kansas is still waiting, obviously, all that type of stuff. Not everyone is in their playoff format yet, but there are a couple that did get it kicked off, which wanted to talk about specifically, but wanted to talk about just 6 players in general, Sean, that I think had big weeks. So I want to start with Jaden Lamar, who is a running back out of Lake Stevens High School in Washington, Lake Stevens, Washington. They beat Glacier Peak to move now to 7-2 on the season. 57-17, Sean. Dominating victory. In this game, Jaden Lamar had 4 touchdown runs. Anytime you have 4 touchdowns, you're going to make the list. You just are. Only carried the ball 18 times, had 4 touchdowns, ran for over 100 yards, 103 yards. But also wanted to put this one out there, Sean. The reason I wanted to add him to the list is his younger brother is a 2025 kid, a sophomore running back as well, Jayshawn Lamar. And Jayshawn Lamar was offered by Notre Dame this weekend. So pretty cool. Younger brother gets offered. You have 4 touchdowns in a 40-point blowout, right? Yeah, in a 40-point blowout in this game. So big momentum hit for Jaden Lamar playing a good football game in a big victory. And also younger brother, Jayshawn Lamar, for the 2025 guys out there that want to talk about 2025 recruits. We're going to be talking about another Lamar in a couple cycles, which is pretty fun.
The fact that they offered him, it makes you think about the Bowen situation. But there are some guys on this staff. I wonder how you feel. There are some guys on this staff that as soon as I see a certain position offered, I trust it immediately. Like, immediately I trust it. Like, I haven't seen the film. I haven't gone to the film. I trust this evaluation.
So just to add to that, Sean, to let you finish your point, He's much different than his brother. His brother's like 5'10", 5'11", 195. Jayshawn, even though he's only a sophomore, is already 6'1", 205. So he's a bigger back, which is interesting.
Yeah. And like I said, it just goes back to the diversity of certain rooms, what coaches are looking for. And there's certain coaches on the staff that not that I don't trust other coaches on the staff to evaluate, but it's just certain guys you're like, okay, I know. Like, if you see a D-back, a defensive back, get an offer from Notre Dame, it's like, okay, this kid, I really trust this, and I haven't gone to the film yet. And this is just the same thing for running back. Like you said, if you go watch the limited amount of film that he has out there, he's much bigger right now, and I expect him to become even more dominant as he goes into his junior year and his senior year. So it's so that jump, right? Because he's right at that point where that sophomore to junior year is where kids make that jump. Mm-hmm. Like, you start to see them go from being a good player to like, oh man, this kid is something else. And I expect him to make that jump, and I expect his film to look even better, moving forward. So it's well deserved. It's well deserved. I don't think we're just in the habit of just, giving out family offers.
No. That's why I wanted to start the Eli and Peyton Bowen visit thing, Sean, with the fact that like Notre Dame's recruiting Eli Bowen because they really like Eli Bowen. It has nothing to do with Peyton Bowen. I think this is the same situation, right? Jayshon Lamar is a very talented player. I mean, he had 14 touchdowns as a freshman last year on a talented Lake Stevens team. So he's a good football player, right? And so Notre Dame likes him. I just want to add something to the chat because this kid's talked about every single week, Sean, when I say Michael Mayer is either the number one tight end in the country or is number two, right? It's either him or it's Brock Bowers, depending on how you rank them. And I always see someone say that Michael Mayer is ranked as the number one draft prospect of the tight ends. Again, I've repeated this several times, and I want to repeat this again. I'm sorry. It's just something that's misinformation. Brock Bowers is not eligible to enter the 2023 NFL draft. He is only a true sophomore. So we are comparing players of two different draft classes. So that's just bad information, right? It's bad information. They're both very good football players, though. And I think that there could be an argument between the all-around game of Michael Mayer, winning in the air a little bit more, a little more physical, a little higher effort as a blocker, or a dynamic yak threat athlete of a Brock Bowers. If you can pick with either one you want, and I'd be like, yep, you got a star, right? Like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. So, let's just chill with it, man. Chill with it. All right. So that's one. I'm sorry. That's just grinds my gears. It grinds my gears, man. All right. So that's one. Another talented running back, wide receiver that was in action this weekend, Sean. This was arguably the biggest stat line of the weekend. So Derby High School in the state of Kansas played against Newton in the first round of their playoffs, Sean. They won 49-20, dominating victory by Derby. Derby will now actually face off against Lawrence next week, which I heard is actually going to be a really good game because Lawrence is 6-3, Derby is 7-2. But of course, Dylan Edwards, star running back at his high school level, expected to be a wide receiver, kind of gadget player at Notre Dame. He carried the ball on this day, Sean, 15 times on 15 carries. He had 266 yards and 3 touchdowns. Also, Derby only completed one pass in this game, only one completion, and it was to Dylan Edwards for 26 yards. So on the day, on 16 touches, Dylan Edwards averaged 18.3 yards per catch. He's now up to 1,533 yards and 23 touchdowns on just 142 carries. So he's averaging 10.6 yards per carry this week. So, Sean, as is the case just about every week, Dylan Edwards makes the list because he is just, frankly, ridiculous. Just a ridiculous athlete.
What else can we say about this kid, man? What else? You know how we beg for people to give us content? Like, players, come on, show us something. It's almost like, dude, relax. We can't. We don't have enough time to talk about everything you give us on a weekly basis. Like, take a week off. Let us catch up. That's how explosive he is. It really is. And I can't wait to see this young man, however they decide to use him, Ryan. However they decide to use him, just get him on the field. Special team, kick return, punt return, running back, wildcat. Split them out. However you want to use them, just get them on the field.
You know what I said to Brian at the game, Sean, and I was completely being a troll and trying to be funny, but I was like, I can't wait for Dylan Edwards, start a gap runner at the next level. I can't wait for it. 160 pounds of him running the A gap. I can't wait.
Or to have a 3.35 and give your speed guy a pitch. Like, really? Just go ahead and just run right to their speed. Yeah.
It's gonna be interesting, man. It's gonna be interesting. So, Dylan Edwards, talented player. Have him on the list every single week because he is that good. Jaden Greathouse, Sean, another guy that makes our list just about every week. Westlake blew out Bowie High School 45-0. Jaden Greathouse collected another 8 receptions, which is actually a season high, by the way. 8 receptions for 115 yards and 2 touchdowns. If you watch his highlights, he had a 60-yard touchdown where he just ran by a dude. I was like, oh, Jaden had a little more gear than I thought maybe he did working deep. So on the season, again, very talented team. Westlake is 9-0 now. He plays on a team that had to replace Cade Klubnik, though, so the quarterback position has been a little bit up and down, but he has 40 receptions for 731 yards, 10 touchdowns receiving. He also is averaging 14.9 yards per return, has taken 3 punts back to the house as well. So dynamic weapon, Sean. Alpha, he's my favorite player as far as who's the guy that comes in early and has the ability to impact the rotation. I think that is Jaden Greathouse. Like, he's that guy to me. He's my bet for offensive side of the ball, being the early playing time guy. That's my pick.
I can't push back. I would love to say a couple of other players, but the depth chart I don't think is going to allow for it. I think the opportunity at wide receiver is definitely going to be there. So I totally agree with you.
Man, I'm hoping for it, man. I'm hoping for it. You know, like I'm hoping there's a couple 2023 wide receivers that we see a good amount of next year. Like, I'm not saying that they all have to start. I'm not saying they're both going to come in and be starters. But if we don't see a lot of Jaden Greathouse next year, then it's flawed, right? Like, there's a flaw because he's also an early enrollee. So he should be able to come in and establish because Tobias' big thing, right? Tobias is starting to get more playing time now. Tobias didn't have spring, and that's still not an excuse because he should have been playing before this. But having the spring, I think, is going to be big for Jaden. Having the summer is going to be big for Jaden. Then obviously having the fall and the winter too, winter workouts as well. So he'll have a lot of time to really try to grab a role, which I think will be big for him. So,
yep.
All right. And then your guy, Sean, we'll also talk about him almost every week. Andrean beat, is it LaVille? Is that how you pronounce it? LaVille?
Yeah, LaVille. Undefeated at the time.
Yeah, man, they were undefeated. I know we talked about that last week where I was like, oh, Andrean's probably got a tough draw in the first round, but Andrean came out and they smacked him, man, 28-6, dominated him. And a big reason that domination happened is because Drake Bowen was on his game this weekend. Offensively, we'll start there. He's running back, even though he's going to play linebacker for Notre Dame. Ran for 218 yards and 3 touchdowns on 26 carries, Sean. So that's like 8 yards a pop in the victory. Also, on the defensive side of the ball, he had 15 tackles and 2 tackles for loss playing the linebacker position. So if you want to talk about a complete game impact, there's no question who was the best player on the field in this football game and pretty much every week that Drake Bowen plays, man. Just another fantastic game for him in this victory for Andrean.
Look, when I talked to him when they struggled early in the season, it was about circling the wagons and going to their playmakers. Pat Clax, who is a wide receiver, 24 class from Andrean, working hard, great relationship with Chancey Stuckey, looking to get that offer. And then Drake, they took it upon themselves. They just started making plays on both sides of the ball. And they've been the leaders for this Andrean crew as they've come back. They face Brennan. And like I said, they're favorite from here on out. They're the favorite. You know, I think they have a team from around the Indianapolis area. It's going to be a difficult task for them, according to Drake, if they end up meeting them. But I fully expect Andrean to take care of business.
Yeah, and they are playing. I wrote it down. They'll be traveling to Bremen, is how you pronounce it, right? 8-4 Bremen. Andrean is now up to 7-3. So that'll be an interesting one. They are traveling, so they will be away in this game. But if you all want to hear from Drake Bowen, Sean, I didn't even tell you about this yet. But if you all are big fans of Drake Bowen, which I am, you might want to stay locked into the YouTube channel because there might be a nice interview in the future that you might want to listen to. So make sure to subscribe to the podcast, and you might have a fun interview coming up here soon. Micah Bell, Sean, another frequent to the list here. The Kincaid School out of the state of Texas defeated St. John's 38-28 this past weekend. Micah Bell ran for 140 yards and 2 touchdowns on 23 carries on the season, Sean. He's run for over 1,100 yards, 1,186 yards, and 14 touchdowns in just 10 games. That was the first playoff game for him this past weekend. They will now go against Episcopal this next week, who they actually just lost to them, I think 2 weeks ago, 21-15. So they get a little bit of rematch this week, the Kincaid School. But another one, man, we talked about the dynamic ability. We talked about the straight line speed. We talked about the ability to play multiple positions if he wanted to. That's Micah Bell. Micah Bell is going to play cornerback at Notre Dame, Sean. He is I want to see him and Dylan Edwards have a race. I'll leave it like that. I want to see them race because I think it'll be a very interesting foot race. And Micah Bell's a dynamic player.
If you keep putting that in the atmosphere, Coach Freeman might be looking for you, bro. He might. I
want to see it, man. I just want to see it. Throw Peyton Bowen in there too. I just want to see it.
Do you cheat when you watch Notre Dame games? IB Nation, do you cheat when you watch Notre Dame games?
What's that mean?
Like, do you visually put 23 kids in certain positions when you're watching the game?
Well, man, if we had an updated NCAA video game, I would. That'd be.
I've already put like Christian. I've already put Benjamin Morrison and Jaden Mickey in a position to where they can follow anybody around the field, specifically in the slot. And you have a combination of, you know what, Cam is back. Christian Gray is on the other side. You got your length outside. You got your fast guys inside. And then here comes Michael Bell. Like, in that mix with those. Yeah, I cheat. I don't know if everybody else cheats. Like, I put Jeremiah Love in the backfield and Chris Tyree sets. I cheat. I'm sorry. I put Jaden Greathouse in the slot like every time. I just take. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but I'm sorry. Jay Thomas, I kind of just take you out, man, and just I put Jaden Greathouse there. I guess I am treating it like NCAA a little bit, like, but just using the actual game to say, yo, I wonder what this would look like if this guy was here and this guy was there.
Sean, you know what I like to do in NCAA, man. I used to recruit at a high level. Obviously, I would recruit. I would redshirt everyone, and then I would get it to like the redshirt senior year, right? Like I would simulate all the way to redshirt senior year, get everyone to stay, give them all their stuff so they come back to school, and then I play that final season the whole way through with all my guys as redshirt. I mean, you have like 99s everywhere. 96. It's fantastic, man.
I hope they update it though, because if you could play video games, it was really easy to dominate in NCAA.
It was.
So, yeah.
I can't wait until we have a little IB challenge and I get to play Brian and I just bring out the triple option against him and see what he can do with me, because I don't think he can do anything with me. I don't think he can do it, man.
Oh, if we had video game rankings, where would Brian sit? Because I know he's going to watch this if he doesn't watching this right now.
So out of what? So it's me, you, Sean Stiers, Vince, and Brian? Is that how we're doing this?
Yeah.
I mean, I would definitely say that Sean Stiers would probably be last, right? Because he doesn't seem like a gamer to me. All due respect to him.
I wouldn't doubt Sean Stiers.
Huh.
Right? He's a tough son of a gun. I would like to watch Vince and Brian go at it, though.
Yeah. I bet you Vince got some skills.
Because he probably plays with
his kids and stuff.
Yeah. Brian might be coming in fourth, man. He might be fourth.
Yeah. All I have to say is I will be number one. I have no doubts in my abilities. No doubts.
You should talk that talk. You should.
I'm the youngest person on the staff too, Sean. So I definitely have the best reflexes. Yeah.
Talk your talk. I would be doing the same thing. I have no problem with it. None at all.
Man. I can't wait for those times though, man. I can't wait. All right. So last one that I want to talk about, Sean, because we never talk about this young man because, I mean, all due respect, I've watched a couple of his games. They're dominant team, Lakota West, dominant team. But you never get a box score from them. They never post stats on Max Preps or just anywhere on the internet. So you can't really go off of, hey, Ben Minich had 27 tackles during this football game, right? So, but Ladarius wants to use Oklahoma. Okay, Ladarius, be a cheater. My God, it's like picking like picking the what's their names, the Warriors a couple years ago in NBA 2K, like just chucking threes all game. Come on, man. It's not football. It's not football. I'll take Navy and beat you, Ladarius. I'll take Navy and destroy you, man.
Yeah.
So
if you're bringing that Oklahoma defense, you might be in trouble.
Yeah. Whatever the worst FBS team is, I'm bringing them and I'm smacking Ladarius. Smacking him.
Wow. I said the worst.
Oh man, Ronald can get it too. He just said it too. But yeah. Last one. I started my intro and you guys got me distracted. I have ADHD, folks. Leave the chat alone for a minute, all right? So, Lakota West, Sean, played Lebanon this past week and won 43-0. I think it was like their third shutout of the season. They're giving up as a team. They're outscoring their opponents. They're 11-0, Lakota West. They are 11-0. They've outscored opponents 408-92 on the season, which means they're only letting up 8.6 points per game as a defense. And a big reason for that is Ben Minich, who's had a terrific senior season. Every time I've seen his game streams, he is just all over the place, man. He really is. He's playing safety well. He's a big player for them as a wide receiver. He's blocked the punt this year. He's done a lot of great stuff for Lakota West, done a lot of really good things. They are faced off against Princeton this weekend, playoff game, second round. They've already beaten Princeton this year 31-7. So they've already dominated that football game. Lakota West looks like they are ready for that championship run, Sean. 11-0. They've been absolutely dominant this football season, and Ben Minich is a big reason why.
We talked about that safety combination and Ben Minich all season long. And I think Ben Minich has been a pleasant surprise to both of us since he committed. I think our thoughts on the young man when he originally got the offer and then when he committed, it was like, oh, okay. And then we started to see his senior film, and it was like, okay.
He looks different athletically this year than he did. Yeah. Like, I liked some of his film, but like it just wasn't a guy for me at the time based upon junior film that I would have been like, that's a take right now. Like, definitely. Senior film has been a much different story, to your point. It's been much different. No doubt.
Much different. And this is my question before we move on real quick.
Yep.
Is it a byproduct of who he plays next to?
Does it help? Yeah, it helps. It helps. I mean, anytime you have other talented players around you, it lets you be more free. Like, I think that the one thing that you saw with, like, I'll use an example that's on the team now for Notre Dame. When Brandon Joseph was on Northwestern in the 2020 season, when there was a better team around him, they had Greg Newsome at corner, which went in the first round.
Yeah.
They had Patty Fisher. They had Gallagher at linebacker that were both really good football players for Northwestern. They had a really good defense that year. He was allowed to play his role and play it really well. Yeah. And then you saw a 2021 version where you're like, Brandon Joseph's still good, but he's not quite as good because the rest of the team around him is not as good, right? So does it help Ben Minich being next to Malik Hartford? For sure. No doubt. But I think the things that have impressed me about Minich is he looks more explosive this year, right? Like, he looks more filled out. He looks explosive. He looks like a higher caliber of athlete than what I thought he looked like as a junior. So, yeah, I think that it's helping his production, but I think that on the field, you can see that his traits are just kind of at a higher level this year.
Yeah, I think I'll leave it at this. I think he has tapped into something. Like, when guys figure it out, I think he's figured something out about himself in his game. And I think he's going to continue to get better. I really do. I think he's going to be a really good, solid player in Notre Dame. I really do.
I think so too. And we always talked about this. I always thought he had a really nice floor. Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, I can imagine him being a core special teamer for his entire career and just giving you some snaps as a backup. And that's fine, man. You still need those guys. Like, you need them. So shame. Like, if you play football at Notre Dame in that role and you get your degree and you do all that type of stuff, it's something to be proud of. Yeah. But I think what you've seen from Minich this year gives me more hope that, like, hey, his ceiling might be higher than I originally anticipated and originally gave him credit for. Like, that's what gets you excited. Yeah. So that's what I'm looking forward to. And someone just said Bo Bauer 2.0, Zach Martin said, just as a safety. And it could happen, Zach. Like, again, Bo was never a star, but Bo was a key special teams player, their best special teams player as far as coverage unit. And he gave you some snaps as a linebacker. Like, could Ben Minich do that at worst? I think so. I think he could do that. I do. I'd be surprised if Ben Minich wasn't a core special teamer during some point in his Notre Dame career, at least. Like, I think he has that baseline.
No, it wouldn't shock me at all.
Yeah. So that's going to do it for this recruiting hour. We're going to get into the mailbag next. Before we transition to the mailbag, if you could please like, share, subscribe to this podcast, hit that notification bell, sign up at boards.irishbreakdown.com. We'll continue to have some great recruiting intel this weekend as Notre Dame takes on Clemson, but that'll do it for the Notre Dame recruiting hour. All right, Sean, let's get into some of these questions here. So, US MA 87 asked, and I wanted to reiterate because I saw a couple people ask this even after I talked about it earlier. Just wanted to reiterate it real quick. Did Samuel Mpemba cancel his visit to Notre Dame? I thought I remember somewhere they decided to be at another school this weekend. So US MA 87, yes, Samuel Mpemba will not be on campus at Notre Dame this weekend. No plans to return to Notre Dame. Notre Dame is not an option for Samuel Mpemba anymore. There's things in his recruitment that are important to him that Notre Dame is not going to provide. And, we've hit on that obviously in the past. So Samuel Mpemba off the board for Notre Dame. We also had DM ND13, which is Dan Mulligan, who's a good dude, said, Sean, what IB staff members will be on campus Saturday? So I know Brian will be there, obviously. There will be an Irish Breakdown tailgate. I know that for a fact. But his parents are going to be in town. Are you going to be in town? I'm not going to be in town this weekend.
Yes. I still have to figure out what dish I'm going to ask Miss Driscoll to make me. She's offering to make me a nice dish when I get in town on Friday. So I'm still thinking about it. I think I have to have my submission in by this evening.
Gotcha. All right. Well, as you hear, Sean Davis will be on campus this weekend. I'm assuming Sean Stiers will be there and will be, covering the game, all that good stuff. Vince, I think, is at most home games. So you should expect IB to be well represented this weekend, Dan. I will not be there, though, unfortunately. Will not be there. I would planning to be down there most likely in Baltimore for the Navy game, though, next weekend, which will be fun. So that's where we are with that one. And Dan also had another question, Sean, that I wanted to hit on here. He said, does that mean Lyons isn't realistic anymore? Talking about Tayshaun Lyons. So, Dan, this is what we're told about Tayshaun Lyons. I think Tayshaun really likes Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame still likes Tayshaun, right? It's just about what does the timeline look like? Because originally it was supposed to be end of October. Obviously, that did not happen to make his decision. Now they're talking about this one might go closer to signing day. It's not over, I wouldn't say, right? Like, I still think that there's, Notre Dame still is in a good spot if they choose to continue recruiting at a high level, but just, when does that end? And you have to kind of be aware that, like, anytime someone extends their timeline, you also have to keep checking options, right? Because, like, what if Tayshaun doesn't end up at Notre Dame? Then you don't have your fifth receiver in the class. So I would just keep an eye on it. It's not dead in the water or anything. It's just that the timeline is a little different than I think what people originally anticipated. So that's where we kind of are right now with that. Saw Jonathan Gabrick, who said, what happens with Peter Jones? That's something to worry about. Your pause concerned me. Jonathan, my apologies if I paused. I didn't even realize I paused. Nope, nothing concerning. Just Peter's not able to make it this weekend. So it's really all it is. I didn't even check his schedule this week. Maybe he just has a game on Saturday. I don't know if that is the case. I don't know if that's true. But just not going to be on campus this weekend. No pause for concern, not a decommitment candidate or anything like that. It's where we are with that. Sean, we also had someone ask, Sean Kelly said, will Peyton Bowen actually show up? Why would Peyton Bowen not actually show up? Has he stood Notre Dame up in the past? I don't get that one. But
sometimes this fan base will, woof.
Yeah.
That's why the word relax is like my go-to.
Yeah.
Like, relax. I guess we're so used to recruiting just not going a certain way. So we react to everything. Like we said, man, it's the process now. It's just the process. It is what it is.
Yep.
There's 3 spots left, like Ryan said.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and I just saw, Sean, someone compare Tayshaun Lyons to Cardinal Tate. Nope, it's nothing like that. Not even slightly like Cardinal Tate.
Wait, is that a player comp or is that like a recruiting comp?
I think it's because of the timeline stuff and all that type of stuff. It's just not compatible at all. But yeah. Sean, Sean, I'm going to hit this one over to you from Blaine Pleasant because it's an interesting conversation. He said, Ryan, I'm going to add Sean into this conversation, obviously. Could you see Hillman as a wide receiver if Notre Dame doesn't get Lyons, Barnes, Mooney, etc.? So I guess, Sean, I mean, stylistically, could you see Brandon Hillman as a wide receiver? Because that's the starting point here.
I mean, realistically, yes, because of numbers. But then again, this kid is going to make his own way. Like he gets on campus and he's going to show the staff where he's best at and where he's needed at.
Yep.
He's just one of those athletes. Athlete is exactly who he is.
Yep.
So I don't expect anything different. And I can see him as safety. It just so happens that you have two really good safeties coming in.
You do. You do.
You know what I'm saying? So, and heck, there's no Brandon Joseph.
If he leaves, if he leaves.
It was a definite when he first arrived that most people were like, oh, okay, yeah, we're getting him for 1 year, but
it possibly comes back. Yeah, it's possible.
He possibly comes back. You do lose Houston, you lose DJ, but now you have Ramon. Do they chance moving Ramon to Viper not Viper, but Rover, or like it's a lot of different things. So it's based upon what they want to do and the moving parts.
Yeah, safety's going to be a really interesting one, Sean. I'm really interested to see how the Rover position continues to evolve too moving forward. Because, couldn't you see a Don Schuler being a Rover down the line? Just being like a 210-pound, like just monster. Yeah. Like I could see that. Could 100% need that. Yeah. So safety will be an interesting one to your question. To Brandon's question, from my opinion, Brandon, could he play receiver and be like a big slot, physical type of yak guy? Sure, he can. That would not be my preferred, right? Like if they don't get Tayshawn Lyons or Khalil Barnes, like I think that they still have other wide receivers that they would have some interest in at that point. So I'll just leave it at that. I think that Hillman most likely is a safety, rover, or a running back. I think that's most likely what happens with him. But yeah, it definitely wouldn't be my cup of tea to that one. So wouldn't be my favorite spot for him. All right, Sean, let's go with this one because we get asked this one every week. It's from Salty Virginia Peanuts. How do you feel about the strength of Brandon Davis Swain's commitment? Seems to be actively taking visits elsewhere. Sean, I'll kick this to you in a second, but I would just like to say to Salty, because I know it's a topic of conversation, Brandon Davis Swain is going to be on campus this weekend for Notre Dame fans, just so that you are aware of that. Now, Sean, I know by your glorious look that you are just chomping at the bit to answer this question, man. So what should we know about Brandon Davis Swain and taking all these visits?
It's the same thing I've been saying for the past 3 weeks, whether it's on here or on the message board. It's like, I think you did a great job of saying it last week. You're a recruit. Take your visits. And fan bases, I'm not just talking about Notre Dame, fan bases just have to relax, man. It's like the kid commits as a junior and all of a sudden he just can't do it. He can't enjoy anything about his recruitment. He just has to lock in. That's not realistic. The kid is enjoying life. He has two mentors, one that played at Notre Dame and another one that plays for the Giants. He's been in 2 NFL games, one to go see Khalid Kareem, which is his connection to Notre Dame, a really great connection. And he's been to a couple of Michigan games, which he's done with his friends and his parents since he was a kid. Like, he's basically living the life that he's lived. For somehow people expect, not Salty, but it seems like people expect once he committed to Notre Dame, he was just supposed to stop living the same life that he's been living his entire life. He's always going to Michigan games. Heck, he might go to Michigan games next year. His relationship with Al Washington, which, according to him, was the main reason he committed without anybody else knowing. He wasn't expected to commit. He committed on his own. His parents didn't even know he wanted to commit. The relationship with Al Washington is stronger than it's ever been. His relationship with one of his best friends, C.J. Carr, is stronger than it's ever been. He is connected to the 24 class and that group of Larson, Williams, Carr, just like anybody else. Just because you see him taking other visits and enjoying his life, it doesn't change anything that exists. Could he flip? Yes. It's his decision. He could wake up tomorrow and say, I want to decommit. He could wake up next year sometime and say, I want to decommit. But it has absolutely nothing to do with him going to NFL games or him going to Michigan games. He's going to, I think him and his father have decided that they're going to enjoy his recruitment.
Yeah.
His father is going to allow him to get the full experience of his recruitment. Once again, his father had no clue when it came to the blue and gold game that his son was going to commit. But his son told him, I'm ready to commit. And his dad said, yes. And as a dad should, as a father should, I know you committed, son, but we're going to take the rest of these visits and enjoy this full recruitment to make sure. And that's all that's happening.
And Sean, there's also a big difference about a recruiting visit and just going to a game, right? Like they're very different, right? It's not like he's going to these visits and he's just getting wined and dined. Just an expression, not saying he's drinking wine.
And you have to watch where the information is coming from. Like if Michigan people are trying to drum up all this and that, of course they're trying to drum up and make it seem much bigger than it is.
Right. Yeah. Don't listen to Michigan guys. But that's a different conversation for a different day. Sean, interesting one here.
I think
P-Dub.
Just to prove a point. Like last week it was, oh man, he's supposed to be at Penn State.
Mm-hmm.
Say, yo, Brandon, what's up? You going to Penn State this weekend? No. That's just how it works. There's so much misinformation. You talked about Peyton Bowen. There's so much information, bad information, misinformation put out there. It's just like
Sean, we were talking about in the I forget if it was in the press box or walking away from the game on Saturday. We were talking about how me and I'm talking to Jeremiah Love and his family about making the commitment video and doing all that type of stuff. Yeah. And then it's like the next day On 3 comes out with a thing that's like Jeremiah Love trending to Texas A&M. And I'm just like, who told you that? No one told you that.
Yeah. And we as a staff, and Ryan, especially you, because you deal with a lot more kids than I do, like we have a level or standard that maybe other publications don't have. To whereas when we get information out of respect for the kid and their process, when we see stories like that, we could come on this podcast and say, look, this is what this kid has flat out told me. That's a lie. And it's like, we don't do that because we don't want to ruin the kids' process.
They have
the right to let it play out the way they want to let it play. It's so, Ryan, if we put together an annual book on the stories or the lies that we knew were flat out lies that were put out there recruiting, it would be a bestseller.
Sean, you had no idea. It was so hard to hold my tongue on this show every single day after that happened because he was making his commitments, at the Stanford game, right? Like that day. And like that whole week, everyone's just like, oh, so Jeremiah Love's trending to trending to Texas A&M. I'm just like rolling my eyes. I'm like, well, he committed to Notre Dame, like last week. So it's not happening, but like I can't say anything, It's just like, guys. Stop listening to bad sources, man. Just stop listening to them. All right. Just stop.
Salty, you asked the question. I'll have a Brandon Davis Swain piece this week.
Love
about his visit. So
love it. Yep. Yeah, because he's another big commit that will be on campus this weekend. So thank you, Salty, for the question. I'm glad we could ease your mind a little bit. I saw your answer to that one, right? So is interesting. So P-Dub asked Sean the question: due to Tommy Rees's lack of recruiting and development of quarterbacks, do you trust his evaluation of CJ Carr? You want to start this one up, or because I do have a
what?
A deep tangent, but
I'll say it like this, and then I'll immediately throw it to you. All I need is 15 seconds. I trust the evaluation because I've seen the film. the kid can play. So I trust the evaluation. Do I trust the development? That's a totally different story. And Ryan, back to you. Back to you.
Well, I mean, that is the big question, right? Is Notre Dame has had some
Yeah.
talent at quarterback over the years. It just hasn't been
Yeah.
developed properly. That's a completely different question.
Right.
P-Dub, to your question about the evaluation of CJ Carr, and I mean, I think Sean hit it out of the park already with his answer. But for me, I don't trust anybody's evaluation at first, right? Like for me, everything is a verification process for me, right? Like I trust Brian's opinion and Sean's opinion, for instance, on players, right? To be able to evaluate them and to watch them and know if they're good football players, right? But I'm going to watch first. And then if they also agree, that verifies what I'm seeing on film, right? Like I trust myself to be the evaluator in that circumstance. And then I find other smart people to see what their opinion is. And if they say, I don't know, man, like I wasn't quite as high on them, then I'll probably go back and watch again to make sure that to verify that what I'm seeing is what I see, right? Yeah. So to the question, I agree with Sean 100%. Do I trust the development? I don't know. I mean, is Tommy Rees going to be here long term? I don't know. Is Tommy Rees going to take the next step? I don't know. Like those things are a lot of question marks. Do I trust it? No, I can't say I trust it right now. For the evaluation part of it, though, I've seen enough of CJ Carr to say the kid's talented, right? So it's not like he's a middling it's not like he's a quarterback that Notre Dame passed on a bunch of other talented quarterbacks and they settled on CJ Carr. That's their guy. Like I think CJ is very talented. I do. So I think the evaluation is good in that instance. Let's see if the development happens. I don't know, but I think it'll be all right. All right. Next question. Sean, I'll move this one. Jonathan Garrick said, Sean, what's your go-to USC merch? Flat bill hat and a USC vest. I can see maybe a Trojan Dad t-shirt.
I wouldn't know. I've never purchased anything that has USC on it. Well, that's not true. I've purchased a lot of stuff that's had USC on it. I haven't worn it. Man, I think on average, each trip out to LA cost me about minimum $300, right? In the bookstore. Minimum.
300?
300. Minimum.
What the heck? 300?
Dude, these sweaters are expensive now, dude.
Wow, that's crazy, man.
Like, she has to have a different hoodie. Then she'll get a crew neck. And then she loves, like, the little shorts to wear around the house, the apartment.
Sean, this is what I'm worried about right here, man. I already have a daughter, and I just know that I'm just going to not have any money for the rest of my life. Like it's already like crazy buying all these clothes, man. And she's 19 months old. Like it's nuts, man. It's absolutely crazy.
You would dare not tell her not to aspire to go to one of the best universities in the country, right? Like, yeah, go.
No. If she wanted to go to a school that was like Notre Dame's expensive, right? But like if she wanted to go to one of those schools, it's like $80K or whatever. Like I'd be like, we'll make it work, right? Like we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out.
Conversation we had. We'll make it work. We'll figure it out. So yeah.
I'll take a couple of the Parent Plus loans. You take a couple out in your name. We'll make it work, right? Like we will.
Yeah.
But can't say I'm looking forward to it though. I'm looking forward to it. But yes, the daughter will always be happy.
One time though, I did say no one time.
Okay.
Last year they had a beautiful, beautiful Nike Letterman's jacket at the front of the store.
Okay.
And she gave me the eye. I was like, no. And she tried to give me the little face, the little sad face. I was like, no. I was like, you want it? Because she was working at that time. I said, you want it? Save and get it. I'm not telling you can't get it, but I'm not buying that. I dare not spend that much money on US.
The problem is, how's she going to save any money in LA, man? Like it's not going to be easy.
No.
Gosh, man, because I know me and my wife are going to have another baby at some point too, and it's just like, man, I just feel my wallet just depleting and before my eyes, man. Like it's just sad. It's very sad. We had Matt Romero ask Ryan, where did you end up eating drinking at Syracuse? So, Matt, I got in later Friday night than I originally anticipated. I think it into like 9 something. So me and my dad actually went out for the game. And we ended up going to Tully's. Sean, you know Tully's? We went up to Tully's.
I have 3 really good friends from the industry that went to Syracuse. So we were texting like all week and during the game. And yes, I know about all the spots on the Syracuse campus.
Yeah. So we went to Tully's because they had the most screens there. So the Phillies were playing. The Phillies had a nice win that night, and then did not have a nice win the next night. But it was we saw that. There were some high school games on. There were some college games on. It was good. It was good. I had a buffalo chicken sandwich that was dope. It was really good. So we went there. Had a couple of drinks. I couldn't drink too much that night though, because I was working the next morning, so at the game. So I had to make sure I was good to go there. Me and my dad stopped for breakfast at this nice diner. I can't remember what it's called in Syracuse, but it was good food. It was good. We had got like a breakfast sampler, man. I had some waffles, some eggs, some breakfast potatoes, sausage links. It was like nice. They
have like a world famous, I forget the name of the place. There's a place in Syracuse that's like internationally known for their waffles.
These waffles were dope, man. They were really good.
It's owned by 2 former Syracuse students. Like they graduated, they opened the place. Yeah, I forget the name of it, but it's like internationally known. So I'm sure the food was great up there.
And I'm so happy I did that, Sean, and really went overboard on the breakfast because I got into the press box and the food up there was not the best, man. It was not the best.
I heard about the syrup that was kind of
yeah. Brian got some like French toast sticks and eggs, and he opened up the syrup, and this syrup was like molasses, man. Like this thing was the thickest syrup I ever seen. He was like, "Yeah, I'm not eating this."
That's the worst, dude.
Oh man, yeah. He was like, nah, Jonathan, it wasn't Waffle House. I would know if it was Waffle House. It was like something diner. I can't remember. I think it was a woman's name. I can't remember though. It was good though. It was good. I would go back to that place for breakfast. It was good. Next time I want to stay the whole weekend though, because I didn't get to go to like Dinosaur Barbecue, which people told me to go to in Syracuse, and I didn't get to go do a couple of those things. But next time. Question from Bobby S. said, is offensive lineman Christopher Tarrick visiting? Is he a take? So, Bobby, to answer the second part, if Christopher Tarrick does decommit from Wisconsin and opens up his recruitment, he would be a take for Notre Dame. He is not visiting this weekend, though. I believe he has a game on Saturday, if I remember correctly. So that'll be tough making that happen, obviously. So he will not be there on Saturday, but if he does end up decommitting from Wisconsin, he is a take for Notre Dame, to my knowledge. Yes.
He definitely is a take. And he is not decommitted, but he's open. If that makes sense. Yep.
No, he's definitely open. There's no doubt. Like he has a tough decision coming forward here. There's no doubt. I think Mike just said Sophie's Diner. It may have been Sophie's. That sounds right. Mike. It might be. Thank you. I'm still not 100% sure, but it was right by my hotel, and it was good, man. It was good. I'd eat there again. All right, Sean, this one from 99 Problems with BK Ain't One. Yeah. Ryan, Sean, I get that Notre Dame is working on quarterbacks. However, what is your gut feel? Does Notre Dame flip any of them? It seems like we aren't making much progress to date. What's your gut feel on this, Sean?
It's so funny because, there are people coming after Notre Dame commits, and seasons have gone a certain way to kind of solidify that these guys would stay in the class. Take an example. Notre Dame, whether it's Dylan Edwards working on his guy, Avery Johnson, or whether Notre Dame is trying to chop it up with him. Notre Dame reached out to Jackson Arnold, according to him, and he had a conversation with Coach Freeman. So, yeah, they're actively trying to flip guys at the quarterback position. But, Kansas State just wiped out Oklahoma State. Like, what makes Avery Johnson say, okay, I don't want to go to Kansas State anymore? I mean, he's looking at a program that has been very successful this year. Kenny Minchie, What makes them say, I mean, Pittsburgh is in the running for, well, they were until this past weekend to make it to the ACC championship game. It's like,
yeah, man, they got smacked this weekend. Though.
They
got smacked around a little bit. Yeah.
So and Keaton Slovis is leaving. So I mean, everything's wide open. So what is going to make him say? It's not always about the school that's coming after you. Sometimes it's about the opportunity that's there.
Yep.
That they're committed to, and things just haven't lined up. To this point, could they over the next month and a half? Maybe something does pop in that area. They're definitely working. They're definitely working.
No
so
doubt
my gut feeling is some quarterback ends up in the class. That's my gut feeling.
Yeah.
Who that is?
Yeah. And I wanted to pull this one up, Sean, because I think it's a continuation of this point. And then, just from like my pulse of it, Irish Blooded said, what do you think is more likely percentage-wise of Notre Dame recruiting a 2023 quarterback versus getting a quarterback from the portal for 2023? Rather, it is a starter depth. I think the answer is yes, right? Like, I think they want to do both things. I don't think it's one or the other. It's not 2023 quarterback or it's a transfer quarterback. I think Notre Dame wants both. So to answer this question combined with the previous question, I do think that Notre Dame gets a 2023 quarterback, high school recruit, and I also think that they will hit the portal for a transfer level quarterback as well. So I think there will be 2 new quarterbacks to the room next year, adding on to Tyler Buckner coming back from injury, adding on to Drew Pine coming back, adding on to Steve Angeli, Ron Powless. Like, I think that there will be 2 more quarterbacks in the room than there were this past year. So that's what I'm looking at. Again, but to Sean's point, who that will be, not 100% sure. I know the names that they're working on. I know the names, but who ends up being, I don't know. I really don't know. But I do think that they end up with a 2023 quarterback and a transfer. I think 2 different quarterbacks will be in the class.
Well, let's just talk about the news of the day.
Yep.
Brian Harsin just got fired.
Yep.
Whatever quarterback committees in that class is probably open for business. I'm sure it's getting calls. Now, I don't know
for sure.
I don't know if Notre Dame's interested, but there you go. The way everything is going to Texas A&M, guys they're talking to could be open for business. There could be a lot of shuffling in the last month of college football when it comes to that quarterback position, because it's all about opportunity.
No doubt.
All about opportunity.
100% correct. You are 100% correct. There's no doubt about that. And Irish Blooded had a question too, Sean. He said, Mailbag, who do you think is the best 3-loss team right now? Notre Dame, Florida State, Oklahoma, Kentucky, Arkansas, or South Carolina, or someone else? I don't want to look through every 3-loss team, Sean, so let's stick to that list, okay? Who's the best 3-loss team out of that group, would you say?
The first team on the list?
I think so too, because I think all of those teams have flaws, and Notre Dame has flaws too. But I think Notre Dame's more talented than everyone on that list. I do.
Yeah.
So if all of them have flaws, who's the best? I'll defer to the talents level. Like, that's for me, right? South Carolina, I think they were playing above their heads early on in this season. I don't think they're a great team. I think they have some talents. Like the tight end Jaheim Bell is a good football player. The running back Marshawn Lloyd, when he's playing, is a good football player. Yeah. Zach Pickens is a good defensive tackle. But like across the board, Notre Dame's more talented than South Carolina. Arkansas, I think Arkansas's defense needs a lot of work, man. Like offensively, got a couple dudes. I mean, I like KJ Jefferson. I think he's a good quarterback. But Raheem Sanders, the running back, is a dude, brother. He is a dude. So they're good. Oklahoma is a mess defensively. And they've had some injuries on the offensive side of the football. Florida State's getting better, but again, I still think talent-wise, Notre Dame wins that one. I do.
Yeah. And then I would probably put Kentucky behind Notre Dame.
Kentucky's a mess right now. But
they have played some really – I really thought they would put up a much better fight against Tennessee, but Tennessee is just like that team. Tennessee is very reminiscent of that Joe Burrow LSU team. They just, it's something about them like it's that type of year. It's like that magical year with Hendon Hooker and his performance. My question, is Will Levis really that good? Is he
No,
really
he's not.
second-rated quarterback? Maybe I'm bugging.
Not Sean. So from that perspective, I will tell you, because I know there's some NFL draft takes that are complete media driven and they're not league driven. I have seen spring grades on Will Levis from this past spring. The NFL loves Will Levis. They do. It's real, man. It is real. He's going to be a first round pick. There's no doubt. Should he be right now? No, not even close. But
there could literally be 4 quarterbacks in the top 10.
I mean, if so, the thing with the thing with Hendon Hooker is that Hendon Hooker is going to be a 25-year-old rookie. So some teams will be like, you know what I mean? But Hendon Hooker is a good football player. I would take him in the first round. He's a good player, man. He is. So, yeah. Gets a little hairy, though, when we start talking about ages of guys and, yeah. Looks like Auburn does not have a quarterback commit for Auburn in 2023, Sean. So too bad. I don't. Yeah. Maybe they can get TJ Finley. Oh man, Melton fan just out for this one up, Sean. And I don't know the actual answer to this one, so it's just pretty funny. Ryan, Sean, how much you think folks have lost in betting on Notre Dame using Vegas odds? Yeah, because Notre Dame is one of those teams, Melton, that's like against the good teams they play up, against the bad teams a lot of times they play down. So they never really cover spreads either way, right? Like it's a little infuriating. Well, I guess they cover spreads like Ohio State. They covered the spread, obviously, right? Like those outrageous spreads, but yeah, I don't know the answer to that one, but it's pretty funny.
Yo, you checked Auburn out, and Texas A&M doesn't have a quarterback commit in their 23 class either.
Yeah, there's a couple of teams that are still looking for quarterbacks, man. Like Notre Dame's not the only one that does not have a quarterback commit. It's interesting.
That's weird. Mm-hmm. But no, back to your point. Look, I knew they were going to beat the spread against Ohio State. I did not expect them to. The games they lost, of course, we didn't expect that.
Yeah.
But I definitely expected them to cover against Syracuse, and I expect them to cover against Clemson.
Mm-hmm.
So.
No doubt about that. Yeah, I think so too. I didn't see the early spread. The early spread on that game was lower, though, wasn't it? Wasn't it like Clemson 4.5 or 3.5 or something? It was a little little light. Yeah, my buddy was like, "That's a little light, isn't it?" And I was like, Notre Dame plays up to competition, so you never know. You never know. Yeah. But all right, a couple more, and then we're gonna get out of here because Ryan's got to go be dad and watch his daughter in a Halloween parade, apparently. So we're gonna do that. We had a super chat from Charlie Weiss's Last Belt Loop, still one of the best names on the channel, no doubt about it. Asked for Sammy Wingo and Ryan Wingo updates. Thanks, guys. Love IB. I feel so weird saying so. Charlie Weiss's Last Belt Loop. So with Sammy Brown, when I talked to Sammy a month or two ago, he told me that he was actually planning on trying to come for the Clemson game. I reached out to verify that because we hadn't heard anything updated on that. So I will keep you guys updated on will be on campus. I think there's a line to Notre Dame. I ultimately think it'll be a tough pull out of the South, though. He's a Georgia kid, so the Georgias, Alabamas of the world, the SEC, I think it's going to be a tough pull, but he's been to Notre Dame a couple times, and he likes Notre Dame, so it's a good starting point. Ryan Wingo, no massive update. I think, again, getting Jeremiah Love in the class, having Christian Gray in the class, getting hopefully in with Christian McClellan in the 2024 class is going to help their chances with Ryan Wingo. That's all we have right now. Ryan Wingo is going to do his due diligence. He's going to work the process. He's going to go on visits. He's going to do all that stuff. So this isn't one that you should expect a decision on for the near future, but having the St. Louis pipeline started is certainly going to help them, no doubt.
Yeah.
All right. Brandon Plesner asked. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying, look, he's a really good player in down south. Hey, he likes Notre Dame, but it's going to be a fight. Like, put your seatbelts on. It's going to be a fight. If they can indeed get him, it's going to be a fight, and getting him here for this game would be huge.
Yep, no doubt about that. No doubt about that. So we had this one. Brandon Pleasant just asked if I was releasing the recruiting mailbag at some point this week. Brandon, so I'm starting to release those on Fridays. So if you go back on the site from Friday or just search under my name on irishbreakdown.com, I released the recruiting mailbag from last week on Friday, and then I'll be making a post probably today or tomorrow for this week's recruiting mailbag. So keep an eye out for those on Fridays. That's probably going to be the new consistent date that I put those out. All right. We had this question, Sean. N. Papel 27 said, Ryan, what if Barnes commits before Tayshaun Lyons? I don't think Barnes is going to commit before Tayshaun Lyons, though. I think that they're both going to be December decisions. So I don't think that's actually going to matter.
Yeah.
Good question, though. It's a good question. Working through a couple more here. Sean, maybe we'll go to this one. I'll start out with you. And then actually, yeah, there's one more question I want to hit to, and then we'll end it here. So, Ronald Tuck said, Ryan, Sean, where do you think we end up on the recruiting rankings? Let's go for 2023, Sean. I think Notre Dame is still ranked number 3 in the 2023 recruiting class, according to basically every recruiting service out there. How high can they finish, Sean? What do you think?
I think 3 is as high as they finish.
Think so? Yeah. It could be.
I just think teams like Bama and Georgia and Ohio State have some heavy hitters that they're still going out after that could bump them above. So, 3 is the highest, but I think they finished top 5, which would be the highest ranking. They've already put together the most ranking recruiting points that they've had.
On 247, they have the highest recruiting points that they've had in the 247 era. So they already have a monumental class. It's just how high it finishes. I agree, though. I think top 3 is a pretty safe bet, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go on. Last question, Sean. Are you guys good? This is from Will ND. Are you guys going to dress up for Halloween? Are you that guy, Sean?
I stopped dressing up around 14.
Really? Oh, not even with your daughter or anything?
Nah.
Boo.
Yeah, I'm right. I am a Scrooge of sorts for Halloween. I really never got into it. Even when I was young, I would do something really simple. I didn't like putting masks on my face, didn't like makeup. So I would just do something simple and be a baseball player and put on my uniform. You know what I'm saying? My little league uniform or something like that. I never really got into it like that. However,
yeah,
there's always room to trick or treat. You never get too old to trick or treat now. I'm all for the candy on Halloween.
See, I
too old for the candy.
I feel that, man. So, Sean, I haven't really dressed up and gone trick or treating since the same age, maybe 14 or something like that, right? But I will say I did dress up this week in a themed costume with my daughter and my wife. I did. So, my daughter was a dinosaur. I put that picture on Twitter. She was a dinosaur. My wife was Professor Sadler from Jurassic Park. I don't know if you've ever seen Jurassic Park. She was the woman in there. And I was Dennis from Jurassic Park.
Okay.
I got the yellow trench coat.
The one that failed, that got killed in the first one trying to get off the island.
That guy. Yeah. The guy that got killed by the dinosaur that spit in his face. No. Yeah, that one. Yep.
Dude, I am I don't know what do they call it? Because, if you're stuck on Star Trek, they call you a Trekkie. So if you're hooked on Jurassic Park, I don't know what they call you, but that would be me. I literally sat there yesterday and watched Jurassic Park 3. It's dude, I've never seen it before. It's the absolute best. I love all of the Jurassic Parks. I'm here for it.
Yeah. All 6 of them now, man. There's a lot of them.
Man.
There's a lot of them.
Man.
Oh, it's funny, though. That is going to do it, though, for the mailbag portion of this podcast. I want to thank everybody again for joining us today. Please, before you leave, if you could hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. If you are on your favorite podcast platform, 5-star reviews are very much appreciated. Notification bell if you are on YouTube to make sure you know that we have a show. We don't have a show today since it's Halloween and all of us have young kids at this point. So no show tonight. Tomorrow I will be back with Brian as we start to work towards the conclusion of Clemson week. Then tomorrow, IB Nation Sports Talk will be on at 6 o'clock. So make sure to stay tuned to those shows. Hit that like button, folks. It's free. Hit it now. Thank you all so much again for joining Notre Dame Recruiting Hour. From Ryan, Well, I am Ryan. From Sean, I am Ryan. Thank you all for joining the Irish Breakdown podcast.